The Georgian mansion loomed before me as I parked my cheap Honda Civic in the circular driveway, deliberately positioning it between Dad's Bentley and Mom's Mercedes. The weekly Morgan family dinner, a tradition built more on flaunting wealth than genuine bonding, was about to begin. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, adjusting my bargain blazer that had cost more than their monthly country club dues. The irony of wearing a $5,000 outfit while they believed I was barely making ends meet brought a smile to my face. 5 years of careful planning had led to this moment. 5 years of building my empire in silence while letting them believe I was just another struggling bank teller. If only they knew that tomorrow morning, First Atlantic Bank, their precious family institution, would have a new owner. Me. Emily. Emily. Mom's voice carried across the manicured lawn, dripping with false sweetness. We were beginning to think you couldn't afford the gas to drive over. I smiled, the same cold smile I used in boardrooms before executing hostile takeovers. I wouldn't miss family dinner, Mother. The foyer was just as I remembered. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and family portraits lining the walls, heavily featuring my younger brother James, the golden boy CFO of First Atlantic. My own photos were conspicuously absent after the age of 18. When I had refused the easy path into the family business and started from the bottom instead. Emily, darling, Dad called from his study without looking up from his papers. There's a junior teller position opening at the main branch. Should I put in a word? James smirked as he emerged from the dining room in his bespoke suit. Still at that little credit union, aren't you? Must be hard dealing with such small accounts. If only they knew that my supposed credit union job had been nothing more than a cover while I built Morgan Global Financial, now one of the largest private banking institutions in the world. All carefully hidden behind shell companies and private holdings. Dinner is served, Mom announced, sweeping us into the formal dining room. Emily, do try not to spill anything this time. The tablecloth is imported Belgian lace. I took my assigned seat, the one farthest from Dad naturally, and watched the theater unfold. Dad sat at the head of the table, ruling like the titan he believed himself to be. Mom perched to his right, perfectly coiffed and perpetually judgmental. James to his left, smug and eager for his inheritance. The board meeting tomorrow should be interesting, Dad said as he sliced into his Wagyu beef. Rumors about a potential buyer have everyone nervous. James nodded confidently. I've reviewed all the candidates. No one has the resources to take over First Atlantic. Our legacy is secure. I hid my smile behind a sip of wine. They had no idea that their secure legacy had already been dismantled, piece by piece, through my shell companies. By morning, First Atlantic Bank would belong to Morgan Global Financial and its secretive CEO. Me. Emily, Mom's voice cut into my thoughts. That car of yours is becoming an embarrassment. Couldn't you at least lease something respectable? The Honda gets me where I need to go, I replied lightly. Where you need to go, James laughed. The credit union? Your studio apartment? Real bankers project success. Speaking of success, Dad interjected, First Atlantic's new private client division is revolutionizing wealth management. Not that you'd understand, dealing with minimum wage accounts all day. I thought of the empire I'd built, managing the wealth of presidents, kings, and billionaires, while First Atlantic clung to outdated systems. Tell me, Dad, I said carefully, how is First Atlantic handling the digital transformation? I hear younger clients are flocking to more advanced banks. His expression darkened. We maintain traditions that have served us well for generations. Unlike these so-called startups, with their apps and cryptocurrencies. If only he knew that Morgan Global had already developed the app his institution had tried and failed to copy. Can't even afford a decent car, Mom sneered again. The Valley must think you're the help. Before I could reply, Dad's phone rang. He frowned at the caller ID. His executive assistant never interrupted family dinner. Charles Morgan speaking, he answered, putting it on speaker. Sir, the assistant's voice was urgent. The bank's new owner is here for the board meeting. They're requesting an immediate preliminary session. What? Dad sputtered. That's impossible. The meeting isn't until... Actually, I said, standing and smoothing my cheap blazer, I thought we might discuss things early. Shall we? The silence was deafening. 3 pairs of eyes turned toward me in shock as realization set in. No. James whispered, his face pale. You can't be. I tapped out a quick text. Moments later, Dad's phone buzzed again. Sir, his assistant said, trembling now, I've confirmed. Morgan Global Financial owns controlling interest in First Atlantic. The Suez, a pause, Emily Morgan. The crystal glass slipped from Mom's hand, shattering against the imported lace she'd so proudly mentioned minutes earlier. I smiled and slid a folder of acquisition papers across the table. Now, about that digital transformation we were discussing. Dad's face flushed with rage. This is a joke. Some elaborate prank. Like the prank of liquidating my trust fund? I cut him off. Or blacklisting me at every major bank in the city when I refused to know my place? James snatched the papers, his Harvard MBA finally useful as he scanned the documents. These are real, he whispered. The shell companies, the gradual acquisition. It was all you. While you were busy playing CFO, I said, savoring my wine, I was building something bigger than First Atlantic could ever dream of. Would you like to see the numbers? I projected my tablet onto the wall. Morgan Global's current market cap is 15 times that of First Atlantic. Our technology division alone is worth more than your entire operation. But you're just a teller, Mom stammered. I laughed. That was my cover. Did none of you ever check, or did you just assume I was failing because it fit your narrative? Dad shoved back his chair. I'll call an emergency board meeting. We'll fight this. Already done, I interrupted smoothly. The board should be receiving their briefing packages right about now. On cue, James's phone buzzed with messages. His face drained as he read them. They're supporting the acquisition. Even Harrison. Amazing what people do when presented with actual innovation and growth potential, I said. By the way, those packages include a thorough audit of First Atlantic. I imagine the sections on executive misconduct and regulatory violations will be enlightening. The color bled from Dad's face. He knew exactly what those files contained. The covered-up harassment cases, the shady loans, the creative accounting. The family disappointment had just become their worst nightmare. You can't do this to your own family, Mom pleaded, switching tactics. Think of your father's legacy. Legacy? I stood, walking toward the wall of family portraits. You mean the legacy of telling everyone in Atlanta that I was mentally unstable for wanting to start from the bottom? Or the legacy of sabotaging my first job applications? I turned back to face them. The banking world is changing. First Atlantic can either change with it, or die clinging to its so-called traditions. And what about us? James demanded. Are you planning to fire your own family? Actually, yes. I pulled out another folder and placed it on the table. Your severance packages. Generous ones, more than you deserve. Sign them tonight and we'll call it a clean break. Dad slammed his fist against the table, crystal glasses trembling. You ungrateful. Careful, Dad, I warned softly. You're about to insult your new boss. My phone buzzed. A message from my CEO. Construction crews ready. New signage arriving at midnight. Speaking of changes, I continued, the First Atlantic name will be retired effective tomorrow. By the end of the week, every branch will be rebranded as Morgan Global. You're destroying everything we built, Mom whispered, tears threatening her flawless makeup. No, I corrected, I'm building something better. Your outdated methods, your old boy network, your resistance to change. It all ends tomorrow. I reached the door, then paused. Oh, and about my car? That Honda you love mocking, it's just my cover. The McLaren in your driveway. The one you've been admiring all evening? That's mine. James rushed to the window, jaw dropping at the sight of the $1 million supercar that had appeared during dinner. The board meets at 9 a.m. sharp, I announced. Do try to dress appropriately. It's not every day a family loses their bank to the daughter they dismissed. As I gripped the door handle, Dad's voice cracked. Emily, wait. We can discuss this. We just did, I replied without looking back. For 5 years, you discussed exactly what you thought of me. Tomorrow you'll learn what that cost you. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. Outside, my real car waited, sleek and gleaming. Sarah stood beside it, tablet in hand. Everything's ready. The press is already gathering outside headquarters. Perfect, I said, sliding into the driver's seat. Make sure security has their instructions. Some of the old guard might struggle with the new order. As we pulled away, I glanced back. Through the dining room window, I saw 3 stunned faces staring after me. The family disappointment had just become their nightmare. Tomorrow the real changes would begin. At dawn, I arrived at First Atlantic's headquarters. Its towering facade with pretentious columns and the proud First Atlantic Bank lettering would soon be transformed. Crews were already assembled, waiting for my signal. Sarah met me in the underground executive garage. Your father tried to call an emergency shareholder meeting at 6. Unfortunately for him, the major shareholders are already having breakfast with our board, reviewing the modernization plan. And James? He tried to access the executive servers at 3 a.m. credentials revoked. I smiled, adjusting my blood-red power suit. And my mother? She's in the lobby. Demanding to see you. Perfect timing, I said. Let's give her a front-row seat to the changing of the guard. The lobby dripped with outdated luxury, marble and mahogany, built to intimidate. Mom stood in the center, last night's designer dress still clinging to her, mascara smudged. Emily, she started, her mask cracking. You can't just. Actually, I can. I nodded to security. They began removing the portraits of past bank presidents. All men, all looking eerily like Dad. These portraits have hung here since 1932, she protested. And that's exactly the problem, I said, gesturing to the new digital displays being installed. Banking isn't about intimidating people with dead men's faces anymore. It's about accessibility, innovation, and service. The elevator dinged. James stormed out, rumpled and wild-eyed. The system won't let me in. My department is locked out. Former department, I corrected. Did you think I'd leave you in charge of finances after uncovering your creative accounting? His face went pale. You can't prove. Actually, I can. I pulled up files on my phone. Hidden losses, personal expenses billed to the bank, fraudulent loans to poker buddies. Mom swayed. James, what is she talking about? Oh, he didn't tell you? I asked sweetly. Your golden boy has been cooking the books for years. Did you really think First Atlantic was still profitable in the digital age? Before they could answer, the doors burst open. Dad stormed in, flanked by board members, faces drawn with sleepless desperation. The shareholders won't stand for this, he thundered. We've called an emergency. Board meeting. I finished for him. Yes. It starts in 15 minutes. Top floor. But you might want to change first. Your suit looks slept in. This is our bank, he shouted, voice cracking. You can't just. It's my bank now. I nodded to Sarah. At her command, drills roared as workers stripped First Atlantic Bank from the marble wall. And it's time for your final board meeting. The elevator opened again, this time disgorging auditors and federal regulators. Perfect timing, I said smoothly. Gentlemen, the files you requested are ready. The evidence of violations is extensive. Dad's face turned chalk white. You turned us in? No, I replied coldly. You did that to yourselves. I just made sure there was a paper trail. James tried to slip away, but security blocked him. Going somewhere, brother dear? The regulators would like a word about your strategies. Mom collapsed into a leather chair, her facade finally breaking. You're destroying our family. No, I corrected, my voice carrying through the marble lobby. I'm destroying the lies we built this family on. The corruption. The pretense. The toxic legacy you worshipped. I turned to the employees gathering, wide-eyed. First Atlantic Bank died years ago. You just didn't notice because you were too busy polishing its tombstone. The doors opened again, reporters flooding in. Cameras flashed. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, welcome to the future of banking. As of this moment, First Atlantic ceases to exist. In its place, Morgan Global Financial. Screens lit up, showcasing our innovations, client satisfaction, and global reach. To our employees, those who embrace change will thrive. Those who resist, I glanced at my family, will need to seek opportunities elsewhere. The board will never, Dad tried again. The board already has. I projected the voting results across the new displays. Unanimous approval. Your services are no longer required. Please clear your offices by noon. Security will assist you. As Dad protested, James was led away in handcuffs and Mom wept silently. I turned back to the employees and reporters. The era of banking by intimidation is over. Welcome to banking by innovation. The new Morgan Global logo illuminated above the entrance, casting its glow across the transformed lobby. The family bank was dead. Long live the new empire.